Scott is a brand new host with us. He just started using us, very recently. So we're going to start with Scott in just a minute. He's going to tell you all how he found out about white glove workshops. And he's going to also tell us some ugly stuff, some struggles that he's having at the beginning, because that's the reality. Nobody slides into white glove workshops and all of a sudden everything goes perfectly for you, for us, or anything. It's a process. It takes a little time. You're going to pay the learning tax, the stupid tax we call it when we're in private, but yeah, the learning tax. So if you don't mind, Scott, could you tell us a little bit about how you heard about us?
Yeah, sure. I'm in Ottawa, and I have my own small financial services company, and I heard about White Glove through a fellow financial advisor who actually I had hired at IG and trained, and then he went off one way and I went a different direction after that. And he's doing phenomenally well. And what he told me when we were sitting down having lunch one day is that he's starting to do these seminars and they've been phenomenally successful. And he was saying, you should try these. And sure enough, it was White Glove. And so his success has been really off the charts. He did about 4 on his own. He works with a much larger firm just south of Ottawa. And now he's doing them for newer advisors in his firm. So he's doing the presentations for them, and the people that they're bringing in as clients are becoming their clients. And he's bringing in on average over $2 million in assets for every seminar that he's doing. And he's closing big whole life cases where they're putting all their non-registered or a big chunk of their non-registered assets into insurance policies and driving really big FYC. So I started them. I did 2 in September. And the one thing that I thought was fantastic was White Glove actually did better than they should have done, because we did it. I live just outside of Ottawa in a town called Carp. And so we were doing seminars in the Stittsville Library, which is a small little library. And you can comfortably fit about 25 to 30 people in the room that we booked there. And we got 46 people in the first one and 42 for the second one, which was just 2 days later. So that ended up being great. It did have some challenges, and White Glove accommodated those challenges really well subsequently, which I really appreciated, because there were just too many people. But I talked to Frank Maselli on the phone before I did my first seminar, and that was extremely helpful. What I didn't do, and I should have done if you're thinking of doing this, is I didn't videotape either one of those so that he could kind of do a deep dive into it, and I probably will do that for the third time. But I really found that I learned a lot from the first one and the mistakes that you make, and I thought I improved on the second one, and I'm hoping to improve on the third and the fourth.
Nicely done. That's awesome.
Which presentation did the other person do, and did you do the same presentation?
Yeah, we did. So he was doing the retirement helper one, and I've also been doing the retirement helper. I think I'm doing the estate planning one in December.
What was the targeted age group for the retirement helper in the audience?
Yeah, the vast majority of the people were close to retirement or retired.
Okay, cool.
How do you follow up with 46 people?
So the way it works is you've got a number of households that you say you'd like to have. And my number is 15 to 20 households. For the first seminar, they actually got 37 households registered. Now there are no shows, but most of the households did show up. And one of the things that my account rep said is that account executive told me is that the percentage of people, the rate of people who register and do come is much higher than in Canada than it is in the United States. And one of the things that they said is they weren't expecting 80% of the people that registered to show up, which is apparently a high number. So then what they charge you for the people who registered and did show up, as well as people who are just show up who didn't register, but up to a maximum. And then you can buy additional households if you want. and then you decide which ones you want to follow up on. All the people who did not show, you also get their contact information. So you can follow up with those people. And I forget which presenters, somebody had a really good idea on how to, these were the 5 points. Which one of you did that? Was that you, Dan? Yep. Which I didn't do, which is great. White Glove does give you some examples of emails that you can use, and I basically use those. Sorry guys, but I like Dan's idea of, these are the 5 points that you missed, and I'll probably do that to follow up.
And out of the, let's say, 40 households that showed up, or 37, or whatever the number is, how many?
That was number of people, not households. Just
okay,
yeah.
whatever. How many showed up to the office afterwards?
So after
what is your process? How do you follow up with them? How do you see the leads? How do you book the appointment?
Right. So this is what Dean was saying. So Frank has a great closing thing, and I try to emulate the opening, Frank, with the tearing of the dollar bill. I had to actually print off a Canadian dollar bill because we don't have them anymore. But and then a close where you're saying this is an extension of the relationship. And I do a lot of workshops. I do the Canada Revenue Agency retirement course in Ottawa. It's great if you live in Ottawa because you can be one of the few advisors who actually do the retirement course for the federal government. And I do literacy workshops for children and stuff like that. And I always tell people who attend my workshops that this is just the beginning of the relationship. You are more than entitled, no obligation to sit down with me for an hour. And so that's what I did, and that's exactly what Frank Maselli tells you is, this is why you might want to sit down with me. This is just the beginning of the relationship. So I did do that. Like I was saying, the challenges for the first group is that we had so many people showing up that we weren't prepared for it. So we actually lost about 10 minutes, and I found myself rushing through the close of the first seminar, and we actually got no one to sign up. And the response was great there. People were saying, great, I loved it, you're terrific, well, whatever, but nobody signed up. And I think it was partially because we just did not have the time for a good, proper close. So we improved that in the second time, and I've had 4 meetings from that second seminar so far, but I have not yet closed a client. But I was telling Dean, we've got about 3 people who are, I think, seriously considering meeting again. Yeah.
Now, in terms of seminar topics, do you decide what to present, or does White Glove, do you do like a market research to see what topics might be of interest?
Well, I think you ultimately decide. I think it depends on the demographic of the area that you're targeting. There's a small town just outside of Ottawa called Stittsville, and it's I don't know how many people live in Stittsville, but there are a lot of retirees there, and so we did the first 2 there, and the reception was so good. When I decided that I wanted to do a larger and more affluent area, my account exec said, no, let's keep this going. And so we're doing 2 more there. And that's why we're doing the retirement one and perhaps the estate planning one. So it's kind of in line with the demographic of the people who live in the area that you're targeting. But you ultimately can decide. But you have the discussion. They're the experts. And my account executives, whether it was Leah Paul before or Natalie Grassi now, they really know their stuff.
I want to add something real quick. I think I got a mic. But we just did one of the White Glove workshops last week, and we had 18 buying units. And once you get comfortable doing these and you get the close down, to your point, like that first time, I remember, we only booked like a couple appointments out of the whole room, and then I think we only had like 1 or 2 show up. Thank God we did end up making a sale. Luckily, White Glove would have refunded our money if we wouldn't have. But the one last week, we had 18 buying units. We had 13 people book appointments. 13 out of 18. So you get a lot more comfortable. You get really good at it. You just gotta work through it. And the one pointer I would say, and I'm sure you tell everybody this, Frank, is just go up there and have fun. Just be yourself and actually enjoy yourself. Like if you're not having fun, they're not having fun. So if you just think about that, just go up there and be yourself.
Well, I know that probably after you walked off stage, you might have forgotten something you wish you would have said when you were on stage. So what I'd like to do is just kind of go We'll start with Frank, because he hasn't been on stage yet. Maybe introduce himself a little bit and what he does and how he works with White Glove. And we'll hand it over to Brad. You can tell us your frog on log story. Just go right on down and open up the questions. So, Frank, if you would please.
I wish I had a frog on the log story. That sounds very vulgar, actually. It's late in the day. 36 years in the business, 4,000 public seminars. Wrote a best-selling book. It's now in its 4th edition. It's called Seminars, The Emotional Dynamic. I teach very advanced presentation skills, some of which you're going to learn tomorrow. And my objective with White Glove, my job with White Glove, is to make sure that you do business as a result of these events. Otherwise, you're going to piss away a lot of money, okay? And you're going to waste a lot of time, and I did. Out of 4,000 public seminars, you're going to have a lot of failures, okay? So this is exciting. I think it'll be a lot of fun for you. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, I can tell you right now. This is Canada, you're all nice, and I'm from New York City, so we immediately have a disconnect. It's terrifying to me, and I'm not going to say process, because I feel like you're sticking me with a fork every time that stupid language of yours comes out. But, no, look, I'm sorry. But honestly, my job with White Glove is to help you be the best that you can be. We're not trying to create clones, because that's not possible and it's not wise under any circumstances. We're going to help you find your best style, your best approach, and we're going to help you have more fun in front of that room than you ever thought possible. And the good news is most of you are really talented. Financial advisors in general are the top 1% of the world in terms of our ability to communicate with people. But in a workshop, in a seminar, you've got to be better. 50% appointment ratio is where we start being happy. You're below 50%, we're going to get you there fast. When you get really good, you get to 70, 80, 90% appointment ratio. And now you've got a business model. So we'll help you. That's my job.
I can't wait to hear this joke.
It's not even, is this thing on?
It's really not that good.
It's not that good. Now it's like this big thing. He's been talking about it this whole time. And Frank, the only reason you think Canadians are so nice is because you don't hear what they say about New Yorkers when you guys.
There you go.
Okay, so the joke, it's not even a joke, thanks Dean for making this a big thing, is there's 3 frogs on a log, 2 of them decide to jump off. How many frogs are left on a log? 3, because deciding to do something and actually taking action are 2 different things.
Very good.
Right? So.
Oh, yeah. And then, if anybody else forgot something when they were on stage, please go.
Yeah, if someone has a better joke than that, that would be great.
How are you doing? You feel like you covered pretty much everything?
Yeah, if anybody has questions, I'm happy to answer any questions.
We'll come back for questions in a second.
Okay.
Yeah, I mentioned the whole, and everybody talks about being the expert, but I do want to ensure that you understand how easy it is to sound like the expert, and it is flipping that technical point on its head. We got a lady, Tina, it's tonight, I think she's doing a White Glove estate planning, and we just coached her through it last week, and it was so easy for her to quickly become an estate planning expert, because really there aren't many out there. And you can grab people so readily, you just have to sound like an expert. You will become an expert, by the way, and that's what drives passion, by the way. The deeper you go, the more passionate you become about your business. The more passionate you become about your business, the more people want to be around you and work with you. So it's self-generating, and it is fun. You don't find morose experts. They are people that love life, right? And people want to be around them, and they do gravitate to you.
Okay.
Sure, maybe just to add to that, Evelyn Jackson and I were having a conversation a few months back, and we were thinking about the future of business. And to your question around how do you decide topics, Evelyn and I were chatting, and we're trying to think ahead 5, 10 years, and what are the trends? And someone mentioned earlier about spending an hour a day studying, or an hour a week. When you study the trends in the news and what's happening around the world, your clients and prospects are studying those same things. So if you're looking for a different type of a topic or a nice complement to a topic, people want to hear about this stuff. And the other thing I'll mention, just from seminars across multiple industries over the last 25 years, don't underestimate the impression you can leave with people. I still get calls and notes about conferences and seminars and events from years back. There's a sense of community, and people do value that.
Thank you, Dale. And Scott, I want to answer one of your questions, or point that you brought up about topics a little bit. And we have a government benefit seminar in the U.S. called Social Security. That brings in our lowest average net worth. The one above that would be the taxes in retirement. Quite frankly, people don't attend how to reduce your taxes in retirement unless they pay taxes, right? You don't pay taxes unless you have money. So that one has a higher net worth. Something that really surprised me was our estate planning seminar. So we have one for Canada, we have one for the US. And I didn't think personally that anybody would show up for that, because at least in the States, you need many, many millions of dollars before an estate plan trust really does you any good. It's over $11 million. So who's going to come to something like that? And then I was actually educated, so you learn something more and more every day. And I was speaking with an estate planning attorney, because I couldn't believe it. There was 20, 30, 40 households showing up at these seminars for estate planning. I know none of them have that $11 million problem. I mean, they had a decent net worth, but probably not that kind of money. And there is so much more with planning for leaving your money. You guys help everybody obviously grow it while they're alive, but they still want to control a lot of that money from the grave. I mean, everybody has that crazy, sister, sibling, child, whatever, that you want to kind of do a little, maybe, like, I'll use myself as an example. And somebody talked, and Scott, you mentioned your friend that's doing the whole life and doing a great job making a lot of money with white glove workshops. Blended families is a really big thing nowadays, right? I joked around earlier about being married a couple of times. And I have great friends with my first wife. She's awesome. In fact, she works at White Glove in the summers. And my daughter, Danielle, and Mike's my cousin, and Brad is my ex-nephew. It's really fantastic to work with family. But still, I have a 24-year-old daughter, Danielle. I have a 22-year-old son at Michigan State in business school. I have a 7-year-old, actually 9-year-old daughter, Harlow, and then her 5-year-old brother. And with a blended family like that, what if something happens to me, right? I have some savings, you have your house, just like most people in this room. Well, let's say that I die, my wife is in her late 40s, right? Maybe she'll remarry. Now she has all those assets, right? What if she passes away or gets a divorce? Now her next husband has all that. Or what if she lives on single for the rest of her life, because I'm certainly, cannot be replaced. And then she passes away. Is she going to leave that, 25% to the 4 children? Is it going to be 50% just to hers? So how do you solve those dilemmas? And we mentioned special needs trust. That's solved with permanent life insurance. And there are so many people in those very similar situations to make sure that you don't accidentally disinherit this person or that person. So estate planning is for the, I forget the term somebody used, the mass affluent. Mass affluent, yeah. People even with, not millionaires at all, but just some means that they want to protect. So the estate planning seminar has been our biggest at InvestWise Financial. That's the financial planning firm. We just started doing those in the summer. Now the advisors there don't want to do anything else. They just want to do the estate planning. They actually buddy up with an estate planning attorney. So we use 5 of them in our area, and there's this cross referral situation now. And remember, all the attendees of the estate planning seminar, they expect to have the call to action. When I stand up there and say, okay, this is really a 2-part seminar. The first part is here, the second part is in our office. But they're there here about estate planning, and I'm a financial advisor. I don't know a whole lot about estate planning. So we actually have our advisors then go to the attorney's office and meet with people that come from the seminar sitting right next to the estate planning attorney, and they just kind of fill out the fact finder and talk as if they're a team in all of this, and it's really been working out fantastic. It's a longer sales cycle though. The average close after one of our typical seminars is 2 or 3 months. Certainly some go over a year, but the average 2 or 3 months. You can double that with the estate planning close, but higher net worth. And it's so great to have the attorney say, well, that's why we have Dean over here, because Dean, would you agree with this and that or whatever? And it just works really well in teams. Sure, Scott.
Well, Dean, I'll just add also, for the Canadian seminars, the one thing that I was really impressed with was the accuracy of the Canadian content. So because the legal system is different, and obviously social benefit system is quite different, the retirement helper one, I'll plug my new friend Ted. I believe your company does the content for that seminar. And so it's done by a Canadian company, so the information about OAS and CPP and everything is very accurate. So it's not an American repackaged seminar. The Canadian content is purely Canadian.
Just one point on the estate planning, and I would suggest, because we've already heard there's $1 trillion that are going to be passed down to the next generation. My mom's 82. She could live another 10, 15 years. I'm not getting that money yet. So what we do in the estate planning, we've got a point where I tell of a story, and anybody can use the story because it's true, about pre-gifting and seeing the legacy played out. Now, when I was an advisor, nobody wanted to gift out beforehand. But when you can prove they've got more money than they could ever spend, and you start talking about legacy, and you can tell them, get rid of some of the assets, you're not taxed now, then on deemed disposition, they won't be taxed then, you won't have the clawbacks, but most importantly, you get to see your legacy played out in front of you. And I tell the story of mom and dad in their 70s, and he was an old curmudgeon. And when I said, do you want to gift out? No, they'll blow it, right? But I said, what if they couldn't blow it? And they had 4 grown kids. What if they wouldn't blow it? So I went back, created strategies, and this really works well because you can show them how they can grow money immediately. I said, take a $10,000, gift to your son in a 40% marginal tax bracket. So the refund on the $10,000 you put in is what? $4,000. Flip the $4,000, $2,000 each into your 2 grandkids. That attracts what? CESGs of $800. So you've taken $10,000, turned it into $14,000, turned it into $14,800 within the year. Your kid is going to show you, they were all in their 40s, your Revenue Canada assessment form, there's no RRSP withdrawals, they get the money the next time. And you just keep showing them how much that money, that one client, we melted down millions before he and his wife passed away. And they had a RIF of a quarter, or he had a $250,000 RIF, a house in a portfolio of less than $1 million, where it was millions. And you tell people this, you will sound different. And you talk about the legacy playing out in front of them. That's why estate planning, you can speed it up like this. It doesn't have to take long. I took on 4 new clients, all 4 of their kids, and 4 grandchildren. And it is easy. You've got to draw on their heart. And playing out a legacy in front of them, that's it.
Thank you. JD, anything else you want to give away?
Do you have any frog jokes you could tell, JD?
I have a mushroom joke. This is one of my dad's. My dad is the ultimate dad joke source of all infinite dad jokes. So I remember he told me as a kid, there's a mushroom walks into a bar, hops onto the bar and says, I'd like to order a beer. The bartender goes, we don't serve your kind here. He goes, why not? I'm a fun guy. So the last thing, you asked for a joke.
We're still waiting for one.
You and my dad should get together, because that would be, my dad's really a quick wit. So there's just one thing I wanted to ask, and kind of stepping outside of the realm of the technicalities and the digital, and something that happened to me last night was a reminder to me, and I want to give it to you because I think it'll serve you for whatever you decide to do. And it relates a little bit to the nerves of making a decision. Most of the times we hold back on decision making because of fear, right? are these guys going to rip me off? Or, hey, I'm going to do the seminar, great, but I show up, and who here never gets nerves before giving a workshop? Who here never gets nerves? You're an anomaly, my friend, but we all do, right? I'm nervous being up here. I was nervous before. You know, I didn't eat up until the time I got on because I want to make sure that I'm doing the best part of me. So I don't eat anything that'll make me weird, and I don't want someone to go to the bathroom and what. I just keep it clean. And that's just, you know, we all have all these amazing speakers here. Everybody has their own routine, but I'll give you one thing that will help you no matter what decision you're about to make. So whenever we're faced with an element of fear in decision making, or a fear, I'm going to fail, fear, I'm not going to be good, people aren't going to like me, I'm too old, I'm too fat, I'm too dumb, I'm too white, I'm too black, I'm too whatever. The fastest way to get out of that is to do a random act of kindness. A random act of kindness. So last night, I went for a walk on, I don't know where I was going. I said, I'm going to go get lost in the city. So I just went and got lost and, you know, let my thoughts float around. And I walked by a raiment shop, which has only Asians in it. And I say, I love to go in places where I'm the minority because I'm always learning something, and I don't want to be around places that I know. I like to be around places I don't know. So I go in there, everyone's slurping ramen, smells delicious. I sit down. It's traditional Japanese style, so when you walk in, you know that everyone says, "Itadakimasu," or whatever they say. And then, you know, then they sit down with they offer you to sit down with the broken English, give you a menu that's half Japanese, half English. So I'm trying to figure out, I've never actually had ramen before, so I'm trying to learn, and I'm looking at what other people are doing, and I said, you know, I need to be in a better place for tomorrow. I want to be my best me tomorrow. So I'm going to try to buy somebody's ramen without them knowing. So I'm eating my food. I'm just absolutely absorbed. This lady comes in, and she's looking pretty haggard. She looks like she's had a bad day. You ever seen people like that just walking down the road, and you're like, you feel for them. You're like, man, that person looks like they've had a bad day. You know, she, no makeup on, you know, just hair is kind of a little bit messed up, and she's just there eating quietly by herself. So the waitress comes over, and I try to be a little slick about it, because I don't want, you know, you can't do a random act of kindness and then brag about it. That kills it. You can't do that. So I try to go around and like grab the thing, and I'm too slow. So I go to the girl. I said, "Hey, can you just grab her thing? I want to cover her raiment." And she goes, okay. So she goes real fast. She grabs it, and I take it, but I got caught in the act. And the woman looks at me with absolute terror in her eyes. Like, what are you doing? I said, no, I just wanted to do something nice. No, what are you doing? I can't let you do that. No, it's okay. Like, somebody did that for me, and I really want to do it for you. It makes me happy, and I want to make you happy. No, I absolutely cannot have that. You know, and then she takes out the green 20 and slides it on. No, I insist. I says, well, look, my card's already in the machine. It's done. No, I insist. And like, we're almost fighting for me to like give her, you know, buy her some ramen. And you know, and then there's a tipping point where she kind of starts to accept it, and I had to sit, like, I was standing because I was trying to walk away, and so I said, okay, I had to sit down and be like cool with her, so she knew I wasn't some kind of creep or weirdo or trying to get her number or something. And I said, no, listen, this is from me to you. One day you'll want to do it for somebody else, and you'll see how good it feels, and please just let me give you this gift. And then after that point, she goes, this has never happened to me. She's turning around to everybody. This has never happened to me. This is like she thinks she's on candid camera or something, right? And it just reminded me how so few people in the world are shown kindness. And when you practice a random act of kindness before you make a decision, or you do, or you go on stage, or you have to get on an important conference call, you know, leave some extra quarters in the vending machine. Go buy, you know, next time you're at Starbucks or whatever, pay for the person in front or in back of you. You would be amazed at how good it will make you feel, and the residual effects of that will last so long. So, you know, that's just a little tool that I use for myself. You know, my wife and I, we practice it, random acts of kindness. Tonight, you know, if you're going to the cocktail, on your way there, is there somebody that you could buy a coffee for? Is there somebody you could give a sandwich to? Is there somebody at the place that, you know, looks like they're on their own, and you just sneak it and don't tell them about it? right? And practicing that, you'll see that when you show up to be that best advisor, you will have this attitude of abundance. And when you show up with abundance, like you don't care if, like I loved your questions, Ludmil, because I can tell you're really thinking through 20 converts to 10, converts to this, converts to that. But I'll tell you, when you show up and you're really just there to serve and you don't care how much money is being made, I don't care if you're gonna, I'm just here to give. The people who see that and sense it will just come to you. They'll come to you naturally, and you can't fake that. And so that's just a little gift I wanted to give. I was given a gift by that lady yesterday by seeing her final joy. But I wanted to give that to everybody.
Well, thank you very much, JD. I would like to, at some point, learn how to fake that at least. You know, it feels so weird to do that. You know, I have to try that sometime. I guess that'll be my homework by the end of the year. Try and buy somebody coffee and not get in a scuffle.
Tonight, can we do random acts of kindness at the speakeasy for everyone on your bill?
Doesn't work like that.
Oysters and alcohol. Buy some toast. Okay. So we do have a couple minutes. If there's any questions you're hoping to get answered, let me get the microphone here. Maybe we'll take 3 or 4 questions if you have them, and then we can get out of here a few minutes early. Thanks, sir.
This one's for Dan. So what was Dan?
Oh, Jason, sorry.
Jason, pardon me, I'm sorry. So for Jason, what was the the seminar that you just did for White Glove? And what was can you maybe just explain to us what was the call to action or the transition out of the group that, you know, you were able to book meetings?
Yep. So it was taxes and retirement was the workshop. And I always like to dual present. And so if you have the ability for somebody else, we try to dual present out of my personal practice. So we do that. We play off each other really well. But I will say, you know, a couple kind of key pointers. One is tell as many stories as you can. I mean, tell as many stories that can relate, real client stories, because people listen to that. Every 5 to 7 minutes, ask the audience a question. Because when you ask a question, you grab their attention because their minds will wander. And then the close, I just use exactly what Frank taught us to use, which is part of the White Glove, you know, program. So that close works fantastic. And I've learned a lot from Frank, and you guys all will too. I mean, he really is brilliant. I mean, you don't even remember Frank, but it's probably 15, 20 years ago at a Brokers International conference, like you spoke, and you know, I read your book and I just started following all the stuff, and then you've kind of given me coaching and help throughout the years. Nice. So yeah, just follow the process. I mean, there really is process. There really is one, and they lay it out for you. I mean, the content's there. Just follow the content that's already built. You know, for the taxes and retirement, I really like that one. Like you said, they draw a higher group. We were doing Social Security. We saw a big difference on the taxes and retirement. And then we just try to tell a lot of stories and ask the clients questions throughout to keep them engaged. And we use Frank's close. Yep.
Okay. Are we about it? Yep, we have one more question.
What's this tour of the dollar bill?
Are you going to do that tomorrow, or you want to do it right now?
I'll do it tomorrow. Yeah,
See?
you'll see it tomorrow.
Coming back. All right, well, everybody, a quick round of applause for